What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Spann Report podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann. This is episode number 349 of the report. And we just gonna get right into this shit, man. We don't have any cold openings or anything like that tonight, man. We're just gonna get right into the show, man, because we got a lot of things to talk about. And so we're just gonna do that. But of course, before we do that, I gotta remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Spann Report podcast and let your voice be heard. You can go ahead and hit us up at our hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages, and of course, those messages will get displayed here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead and leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get read here and reply to here live on the show. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, hit us up with a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get read here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who goes about the minutes of doing that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. Also, hit us up at our website at www.thespannreport.com. You can go there, watch replays of the show. You can vote in the polls when we decide to put those polls up. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like, and we really appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. And we did that real quick. Got the business out of the way, man. Got it out of the way. Now, of course, I did mention that you can leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio. But one of the things I kind of neglect to mention oftentimes, man, is that, this podcast is available pretty much everywhere except fucking SoundCloud. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can catch us on Spotify. You can catch us on, like, YouTube. You can catch us on, what's another one? Like Audible and stuff. We're available on Amazon. We're pretty much everywhere their podcasts are available except SoundCloud. So, if you want to, spread the word, tell people how they can listen to it. It's like, yo, man, whatever podcast app you're listening on, except SoundCloud, you can fuck with your man Spann. So go ahead and do that, man. Real talk. But man, it's been like, it's been a week since the last time I talked to y'all. The weather's been acting a little funny, man. We went from the 70s and 80s here in Michigan to 50s and cold and wet, because that's what it does here in the autumn and the fall. And this time of year that a lot of y'all claim to be y'all favorite time of the year, man. This is a dreary ass time. I ain't gonna even lie to y'all, because it's like the death of all of the shit that was going on in the summertime, But I got a few random thoughts, man. I feel like I could share these random thoughts with you guys because we family, right? So my first random thought, man. We are on social media, quite a bit. I know I am, and probably those of you who listen to me, you're on social media quite a bit as well. And every time, every now and again, you may see someone who posts something that they think is really deep, right? Like, they'll talk about some societal issue. They'll talk about some issue that they saw on like a reality show or something, and they'll talk about the nuance and the thing that no one's catching, but they're the only ones who are catching this thing, right? And I always post about it on social media, and they say, but y'all ain't ready for that conversation. And honestly, I kind of feel like the niggas who say y'all ain't ready for that conversation are generally the last motherfuckers that came to the conversation, man. I feel like you niggas is late to that conversation. Everybody just off that shit now, man. And you feel like everybody's not ready. They didn't had it, and you just showed up, Like, it's always somebody who think they being deep, man, but y'all ain't ready for that conversation. Like, nah, nigga, we was there already. You need to catch up. That's one of the things I was thinking about. Another thing I was thinking about, man. So, speaking of like social media posts and shit, every now and again, I will I'll say something on social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or something else, and I'll use a word that I don't necessarily use all the time. It's not exactly a part of my daily parlance, if you know what I mean, right? It's not a word that I use all the time, but every now and again I'll use a word, and I'm sure I used it right, but I always go back and check afterwards and shit. And I feel like it should be the other motherfucking way around.
And that'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yeah, I feel like I should probably be proofreading that shit before I post that shit. And I posed that question on Facebook a couple of days ago. Am I the only one who does that? You just use a word and then you go back later to check to see if you use it in the right context and shit. And quite frankly, There's quite a few of you who do the same shit. So I don't feel as bad, man. I don't feel as bad. Some of us are out here using these words trying to look smart and shit like that. And then we go back and check and like, oh shit, I used the wrong word. I didn't need to like edit that shit. And Twitter is like, it's forever, nigga. If you said some shit on Twitter, you can't edit that motherfucker. You just got to erase that tweet and start over or something. But like, yeah, I was thinking about that, man. I use words all the time on Facebook and Twitter and shit. And sometimes I'll be like, yo, did I use that word right? I always go back and check. And you should do that beforehand, man. Something I was thinking about. Another thing I was thinking about, and we're gonna talk a little bit about this later in the show. Kyrie Irving has been in the news quite a bit this last week or so. And, he said something to the effect of he wanted to be a voice for the voiceless, to which I would say,
oh, yeah. What happened to your shaft? There's powerful niggardry at work here.
Yeah, because real talk, I feel like this idea of him being the voice of the voiceless is kind of like pointless. Because I hear from these niggas every day, bro. Like, who are these voiceless niggas that this nigga Kyrie is talking about? Who are the voiceless folks he is referring to? You know what I'm saying? Help me, man. Like, help your boy out. Point these people out to me so I can understand more what Kanye is coming. No, I said Kanye, but it's starting to feel like Kanye and Kyrie are starting to mold themselves into the same incessantly aggravating ass niggas. They're starting to become the same dudes. But yo, man, those have been my random thoughts. Now, we did get some listener feedback. We got a couple emails. Reggie wrote in to the show, and let me go ahead and pull these up so we can see what the fuck Reggie talking about, and we can respond to the homeboy Reggie. And let's see. Our first email we got here. He's talking about HBCU funding. We did mention HBCU funding in the last show. So Reggie writes in to say, he said, what's going on, Mr. Spann? I know it's been a while since I last wrote in, but you've been cooking lately, dude. And I'm glad to see you in your bag. Well, I appreciate that, brother. I especially appreciate the level of nuance you brought to the whole Dave Chappelle thing. Lots of folks didn't even think on the level you did. I wouldn't say that. They never got past the laughter from the punchlines, but I'm glad you were able to get into what was behind those punchlines and made what he was saying so messed up. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. I guess it's part of this, like, the people that you know and stuff, right? Yeah, I got inundated with a bunch of dumb motherfuckers in my timeline and shit, but I also know some pretty smart people too. And oftentimes, man, some of the smarter ones, I would say, some of the smarter ones were, kind of echoing some of the same sentiments that I was. And that's not to say just because they're smart, just because I agree with them. It's just that, like, I just thought that they were thinking about it a little bit further than just as you said in his email, past the punchlines. Said, but I did want to get at you. Okay, see, I knew it couldn't all be good. I did want to get at you about what you said about the HBCU funding. It's no secret that you supported Kamala Harris during the primaries. No, it's not. And you, like the rest of us, wanted Donald Trump up out of there. But do you think you could have probably been going soft on the criticism of this Biden administration in relation to the defunding of HBCUs? So much has been made about Kamala Harris being an alumni of Howard University, and they use that to prop up her credibility with Black people. But where has she been on this issue? We haven't seen her. And why then, when it came for things to be cut, it was the Black shit that was the first thing to be tossed aside? I'm just saying, Mrs. Spann, it's not a good look for this administration, and I thought you were being a bit soft on them. Other than that, you had it going. Can't wait to hear your response, and have another great show. Peace. All right, Reggie, couple things here. You are not the first, and you probably won't be the last to say that I was probably being soft on them, especially considering how I, was going at the Trump administration the last time we were, we were talking about presidential politics and everything else, and what the president was doing in relation to the Black community and everything. And you also are like, that response is actually kind of what I was talking about when I talked about this on the show last week. So when I talked about this on the show last week, I was talking about how this, the funding that they were talking about was proposed funding. This wasn't money that they had taken from HBCUs. The HBCUs hadn't even gotten any of this money. These are things that they were still proposing to bring to the table for HBCUs in a future budget proposal, right? And because of the way the internet works, and because of the way that, like, small tidbits of information tend to, like, kind of small tidbits of information tend to like spread a little bit further than, you know, the more nuanced and the more elaborate explanation for these issues. And so when I was talking about this last week, I said so. I was like, yo, man, like there's going to be a lot of people who fall for the memification of this story, who are all like that horse is already out of the barn. People are already thinking that black schools got their money cut from these you know, from the you know, from the HBCU funding and everything else. A whole bunch of black people are going to be thinking like, yo, man, our money got cut. They taking money away from HBCUs. And not to say that you know, it's easy to fall into that perception, right? But as I said last week, that was proposed funding. That wasn't money that the HBCUs had gotten, right? That wasn't money that they had even received yet. As a matter of fact, because you wrote the email, I did go and I checked, right? So we went to PolitiFact to talk about to see whether or not there had been funding cuts for HBCUs. And PolitiFact rated that as a false claim. So we read the story out of politifact.com. It said HBCUs the claim is that HBCUs likely to get smaller boost in federal funds, but that isn't a $30 billion cut. So what's happening is they're not getting as big a boost as they were going to get, but they're still getting a boost in funding. But it's being talked about as if they were losing money, or that they were taking money away from the HBCU. So it said amid tense federal budget negotiations among Democrats, social media posts made a false claim that President Joe Biden cut funding for historically black colleges and universities by $30 billion. Biden breaks promise, cuts $30 billion to black colleges and universities, read the headline on a video that is shared to an Instagram post. Another Instagram post also made a $30 billion claim about what are known as HBCUs. The posts were flagged as part of Facebook's effort to combat false news and misinformation on its news feeds. It's not clear how the claim arrives at $30 billion, but the suggestion that the HBCUs are receiving funding cuts is wrong. It's a lie, tweeted Walter Kimbrough, president of Dillard University in New Orleans, an HBCU. Biden proposed a $3.5 trillion spending plan, sometimes referred to as a budget reconciliation bill, now being debated by Democrats in Congress. It included a $45 billion in new funding for it included $45 billion in new funding for HBCUs and other minority serving institutions. So the other part that gets lost in this is that out of that $45 billion, all of that money was not going to HBCUs. There were also what they call minority serving institutions that were going to get some of that money. There were also Hispanic serving institutions that were going to get some of that money. All $45 billion weren't allocated towards HBCUs. This was additional funding that those institutions could look forward to. And that additional funding was what was being negotiated in this reconciliation bill. It said, to update their research programs, create incubators to help students innovate and help traditionally underserved populations. The Associated Press reported on October 5th that the latest iteration of the reconciliation bill only included $2 billion that can go toward educational programs and infrastructure for black colleges, and even that amount would be reduced to competitive grant funding rather than direct allocations. No final decisions have been made on the bill, but as it stands, HBCUs stand to gain $2 billion in new funding. So this is what I was talking about last week when we were talking about how this sort of thing gets misconstrued on social media, and because memes and shit like that they get shared so quickly and so fast without the nuance, without the context. People just latch on to that, and because of how they want to feel about a certain issue, that's the story that they're going to run with. So unfortunately, Reggie, my brother, sounds to me like you might have just been the victim some false information. There's a lot of false information being spread and disseminated on the internet. As a matter of fact, I was very tempted to create some disinformation and a meme and shit right here live on the show, because I'm like, man, there's been so much fucking misinformation being spread. So many people believe in the bullshit that I'm like, man, I'm about to just like do this live on the podcast just so I can show people how easy it is to just make up some shit and they go viral, and then all of a sudden nobody knows, like, oh shit, like that becomes like the thing that people latch on to. But I'm not gonna do that because I'm a responsible motherfucker, you know. So yeah, man. I appreciate you writing in, and I hope to hear from you again soon, man. Real talk. But we did get another email, so I guess I am going to hear from you real soon. And this one here was also from Reggie. He wrote in. He's asking about Flame Monroe. He said, "I knew there was something I forgot to mention in the last email. What do you think of the fact that the trans comedian Flame Monroe has come out in defense of Dave Chappelle and the backlash that they are receiving for it? Does their voice not count in the discussion?" Well, here's the thing about Flame Monroe. I think what Flame Monroe was dealing with is the fact that um, Flame Monroe is the one trans, comedian or like prominent trans person that a lot of folks go to when they want to excuse some of the things that are going on. When other trans folks are like, talking about them, being mistreated. Unfortunately, Flame Monroe goes to like kind of explain away how the trans community is feeling about it. So it's one of those things where like if you got a bunch of if you've got a bunch of people who are saying, yo, man, we don't really like this that's going on right now. And then, everybody just like kind of ignores the group and they just go to this one person that's a part of that group to say, well, not all of y'all feel like that. It's just like, it just kind of screams of, in much the same way that like, white folks are like, point out a Candace Owens to us. You know what I'm saying? Well, Candace Owens gets it. Like, no, you just agree with her. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't negate everything that the rest of us are feeling about, the conservative politics or whatever it may be. It just, the thing with Flame Monroe is that, oftentimes it just seems like she's giving a pass to the people who are like offending the trans community by and large. Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm not a trans person. I'm not a part of that community. So I can't really speak for them. I'm just saying how it kind of like looks to me on the outside, looking in, that it looks to me like when people feel as though they want to latch on, like they'll find the one trans person that agrees with them and then they'll champion that person, but then they'll just ignore all the other trans people who are telling them, no, that's fucked up. And that's how Flame Monroe gets one of those, like she'll get a prominent spot or a speaking engagement talking about these things on stuff like, like the Breakfast Club and things like that, is because, like Flame Monroe was the one who was saying, nah, this is cool. My community is tripping, and it just, when we see people in our own community doing that, we just kind of look at them with the side eye, much the same way maybe the trans community is looking at Flame Monroe with the same side eye that black people would be if they were out here excusing somebody doing some racist shit. So, I mean, that's just pretty much what it is. It's not to say that she can't speak. It's not to say that she can't, what's the word here? Like, give their opinion on it. It's just that, like, yo, man, what's your opinion? When you state your opinion out publicly, people are going to have a response to it. And, that's the thing that I think is misunderstood a lot. Oftentimes, man, is like, yo, you can have your thoughts and you can express your thoughts publicly if you so choose. But, yo, people get to respond to your shit. And when the people that are responding to your shit are louder than the people who are in support of your shit, that's not cancel culture. And oftentimes that shit gets confused. People confuse consequences. People confuse disagreements and shit with cancel culture. And that's not always what that is, man. But yo, man, I appreciate you writing in. And yo, that has been the emails and the listener feedback. It's time for us to get into the news, y'all. All right. Our first story here in the news has to do with the fact that in Chicago, man, the Chicago police were actually threatening to walk off of the job because they refused to take part in the COVID-19 the COVID-19 vaccine mandate.
That'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yeah. So let me pull this video up so you guys can watch right along with me here. Let me, because this shit done started on its own already. I'll be goddamn. Usually this should have a commercial on it in front of it, but but let me go ahead and get this here together for y'all so y'all can watch right along with your man Spann. Hold on a second while I pull this up, and we can do this together as a family. All right. Here we go. See what they talking about.
It's a refusal that could put Chicago at risk.
And we're going to keep fighting this mandate and this dictatorship.
Beginning today, all public workers in Chicago must declare their COVID vaccination status. But this morning, thousands of officers backed by their police union are refusing to comply, instead warning of a mass walkout by the nation's second largest police force.
I guarantee you.
I'm sorry, man. But police unions have to be some of the whiniest motherfuckers on the planet, bro. Like anytime anybody tries, like this is supposed to be like a public safety, public health issue when it comes to the vaccines and like mandates and stuff like that. It's a public health issue. It's a public safety issue. And it just smacks me as odd that you have people who are supposed to be involved in public safety refusing to take precautions not only to protect the public, but to protect their damn selves, man. Like, that's the weirdest shit ever. And they're so upset about it that they say that they're willing to walk off the job. Like, not just Chicago police unions, period, have to be some of the whiniest motherfuckers on the planet.
At least half the department staying home come Saturday morning.
Police Union Chief John Catanzara placing the blame on Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
If you are not vaccinated, you are playing with your life, the life of your family, the life of your colleagues, and members of the public.
The department has not released information on how many of its 12,000 officers have been vaccinated. But for police, refusing to get the shot could create a major risk to public safety.
Exactly.
Murders in 2021 are up slightly over this time last year and are significantly higher than in 2019. On Thursday, the city's police commissioner urged his officers to get vaccinated, the department pushing back on the idea of a massive no-show this weekend.
Chicago Police Department will be fully staffed and ready to protect the citizens of the city.
And it's not just public safety on the line. COVID is a leading cause of death among police for the second year in a row, killing 724 officers since the pandemic began. Officers are 4 times more likely to die from the virus than any other cause in the line of duty. But
so help me make sense of this. COVID-19 is the #1 killer of police for the last 2 years, and yet you have police unions across the country who are fighting against vaccine mandates and mask mandates because why exactly? Like, I mean, think about this for a second. You know, you got police out here. They rock the bulletproof vests every day, man. You know, and police love to tell you, man. You know, I want to just make sure that I'm able to get back home to my family. You know, I want to go home safe, man. Because when I walk out that door, I don't know if I'm coming back. And this rhetoric to be sure, because I mean, the vast majority of us, when we walk out of the door in the morning, there's no guarantee that we're going to come back home. And yeah, some jobs have, some more inherent risk than others, but there are a lot more jobs. There are a few more jobs that are a little bit more dangerous than being a cop, right? But the tripped out part about it is you'll wear that bulletproof vest because you feel like you might get shot, right? And you want to protect yourself against the possibility of you getting shot, right? But everyone who wears a bulletproof vest doesn't prevent them from getting shot in the leg, doesn't prevent them from getting shot in the arm, doesn't prevent them from getting shot in the head, but they wear the motherfucker, right? And why do they wear the motherfucker? For mitigation purposes. If I do get shot in the torso, maybe I don't die. Maybe it stops the bullet. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it saves my life. Maybe I won't be in a hospital and need trauma unit and everything else. Maybe I might walk away from the shit. Same thing with the fucking vaccinations, yo. Maybe I don't get COVID-19. Maybe I don't need a ventilator. Maybe I don't need the intensive care unit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm getting this because it might protect me against all that other shit. It might not prevent me from getting COVID. It might not prevent me from getting a breakthrough case and all like that. But if it's going to give me a fighting chance to walk away from this shit and to see how they're applying this as if it's burdensome on them. As if wearing a fucking bulletproof vest isn't burdensome. That shit looks heavy. It looks uncomfortable. Y'all sitting in them damn cars all day looking all stuck up and shit. You got all this equipment and shit on, but you don't want to actually arm yourself against something like a threat that you can't see. Make it make sense to me, man. Just make it make sense. Well, sorry. Finish it up.
The union and its leadership unfazed.
I don't care if it's Superintendent Brown. If somebody orders you to go into the portal, refuse that order, document it on body cam if you can.
Now, Los Angeles has a similar mandate, but the county sheriff says he's not willing to enforce it because he's afraid he would lose some 10% of his force. Meanwhile, here in Chicago, the police union says they are prepared to sue the city if the mayor enforces this order. So, Chanel, this is something we'll be tracking closely as we head into the weekend.
We'll have to watch and see what happens.
Yeah, man, it just doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense on a lot of different fronts, man. But, yo, man, that's in the news. Our next story in the news has to do with the fact that so for one, the fact that that COVID-19 is the #1 killer of police all across the country.
God damn!
Yeah, I had another story. I wasn't expecting that video to actually allude to it. Oh, snap. I done lost my, what's the name? I got too much going on over here. But that police officers, the #1 killer is COVID-19. So We get this here from CBS News, and it says that the pandemic has taken a devastating toll on police departments across the country. COVID-19 is now killing more law enforcement officers than any other threat they face in the line of duty. 716 officers have died since March 2020, according to the Fraternal Order of Police. Still, there's a reluctance among law enforcement to get vaccinated. In Memphis and Louisville, just 47% of officers have been vaccinated, according to those police departments. In Philadelphia, just 13% of police department employees have provided proof of vaccination. We have members who, just like the cross section of the population of the United States, who do not want to be vaccinated. The president of the National Fraternal Order of Police said, Patrick Yos, the president of the National Fraternal Order of Police. Many firefighters are also refusing to comply. In Spokane, Washington, 50 firefighters risk being fired later this month if they don't get the shot. Among them is Tim Archer, who said he has not been vaccinated because it's really in conflict with my conscience. Archer, the president of Spokane Firefighters Union Local 29, does not expect his mind will change. In some cases, police officers and firefighters are saying this is the toughest decision they've had to make in their careers. I'm sorry, man. That just does not make much sense to me at all, man. And as I said, when you think about the fact that these are people who interact, they're public facing employees, they're dealing with the public on a day-to-day basis. I feel as though you should be arming yourself with every tool in the toolbox to protect yourself and, to get back home to your family in the ways in which you say you want to be getting back home to your family. Oftentimes, man, it's like that sort of rhetoric that it just smacks of hypocrisy. Because if you don't want to do that, like not only are you endangering yourself, but you're endangering those around you, like your fellow firefighters, your fellow police officers. You bring that shit home, so now you're endangering your wife, your kids, or whomever you may be taking care of. And then when you go back out into the public, now you're a danger to the public as well. So it just doesn't really make sense, man. I'm sorry, man. Like it's been a real rough week for you, man. Spann. Honestly, I'm finding out a lot of people are just plumb fucking dumb, bro. And it's been hard coming to that realization that I know so many plumb fucking dumb people. And then also, this shit going on. But that's in the news. Another story that's going on here in the news has to do with the fact that Superman, Clark Kent and his lady Lois Lane, they had a son, apparently. I ain't read the comic books in a while. But apparently Lois Lane and Clark Kent had a son. His name's John Kent. And John Kent then inherited some of his daddy's traits. You know what I'm saying? He got the super strength. He can fly and shit. You know what I'm saying? He also dons the Superman suit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming that when Clark dies, he won't be the new Superman. But also, John Kent then came out as bisexual. Oh, niggas is hot, man. Niggas is hot. Oh my God. So check this out. First, I saw the story on Facebook, and I was like, oh, okay, Superman's gay. Or Superman's bisexual. Cool, or whatever. I didn't think anything of it. Excuse me. And part of the reason why I didn't think anything of it is because we've had alternate universes and shit, like you think about Spider-Man and shit, like, you got the entire Spider-Verse. There's like a spider pig and shit. There's a spider robot and shit. Like there's a whole bunch of different Spider-Mans. There's like, then you got Miles Morales, who is the Afro-Latino, Spider-Man and shit. And, I'm sure when he first emerged, there was talk about, they shouldn't be doing this, man. That Peter Parker is only Spider-Man, man. Honestly, it's all some made up comic. It's all made up shit anyway, bro. Like it could be whatever the fuck the creators want it to be. You know what I'm saying? That's what's tripped out. Like it could be whatever the creators want that shit to be. And so, interestingly enough, a guy I know from college sent me this story via Facebook Messenger, and let's just say that interaction didn't go very well because I didn't care, and he cared way too much. So much so that like when I was just like, all right, so he got to talking about this being a fuckboy mentality, and he hopes that Russia and China comes over here to put down this fuckboy mentality. Like real talk, man. I'm gonna need you niggas who like think this way to like stop denying it when y'all say y'all not homophobic. like, because there's no reason in the world for you to be that upset about a fictional character coming out as bisexual or whatever. And I know some of y'all always attribute shit to being a part of a gay agenda or whatever else. I know another dude I know was talking about some like everything's gay. Like, everything's not gay. But here's the one thing that you should understand is that although you may not personally be dealing with anything like this, there's a lot of parents who are out here who are finding out that their children are part of the LGBTQ community. And it's a lot of the art imitates life. The art is imitating life. And so when the art is imitating life, even Superman has, has to come to grips with the fact that, like, yo, his son isn't heterosexual, his son is bisexual. And how does Superman deal with that? How does Superman navigate his feelings around his son not being necessarily 100% heterosexual? How does Superman deal with that? How does Lois Lane deal with that? These are questions that a lot of parents are asking themselves. How do I react to? How do I respond to my child coming out to me as a part of the LGBTQ community? How do they respond to that? And so oftentimes, because sometimes messages can be sent and you're forced to think about things through your media. Sometimes it comes through in the comic book. Sometimes it comes through in the television shows you're watching. Sometimes it comes through in the media, in the movies. Sometimes it comes through in the books that you're reading. Like, but oftentimes, like, these things are forcing you to think about something outside of how you thought about them before. Much the same way we were talking about the shit last week. But so many people are so aggressively, malignantly, and proudly ignorant and have no desire whatsoever to venture off and learn about something outside of their own experience, man. It's sad to witness. Like, it's sad to witness. And when I had that interaction with my dude from college, like, it was at that moment when I realized, like, I'm gonna have to block this nigga. Like, I can't keep doing this, man. It was another guy from my old high school, right? Now, the thing is, like, even from my old high school, he was talking about the John Gruden shit. We're gonna talk about that shit later too. But, like, you start wondering, like, do these niggas understand what it is that they're saying? Do they really understand what it is that they're defending? Do they really understand what it is, like, the messaging that they're propagating? And I just felt like this as I was watching my timeline, as I was seeing niggas pop up in my inbox that I hadn't seen from or heard from in years over the course of this last week. Niggas who only reached out to me because they disagreed with me and shit. This whole week, your man Spann been feeling like this, man.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up.
Damn.
Enough. Boy, I've been sick to my fucking stomach watching you imbeciles type things. Yeah. Stop typing. You niggas are stupid.
That's how I felt. That's how I felt all fucking week, bro. It's been like that all week. Just, I couldn't believe it, man. Like, it just, like, coming to grips with the fact that, like, man, and also just, like, trying to figure out, like, at what point do you stop extending that level of grace to people? Right? I was kind of struggling with that. And one of the reasons why is because I remember how I used to be. Right? So, if you listen back to some of the first episodes of the Spann Report podcast, like, go back 10 years. Excuse me. Go back 10 years and, like, listen to some of those first probably 10, 15 episodes of the Spann Report podcast. You probably heard some very homophobic shit on this show. Probably heard some very transphobic things on this show. You probably heard some really ignorant, misogynistic shit on this show because of where I was in life and how I thought about things. And me just being honest with how I, felt about the world at the time. There's a documented history of the things that I've said over the course of the last decade, not even just on the podcast, but, like, if you look back at some of my old ass YouTube videos, man, talking about religion, talking about the LGBTQ community and religion, talking about Freemasonry and all these other things, man, devil work, all this shit, man. I got a long history of, like, speaking my mind on the things that I see in the world and stuff. And so what I've been struggling with over the course of the last, few weeks, the last few weeks or whatever, is because I understood where I was not too long ago, where I felt like, I had to extend this grace to these other folks because I wanted to be an example, so to speak, where like, okay, so eventually my mind was changed on a lot of the things that I was talking about. People extended enough grace to me to where I was able to learn from them, and I was able to have my mind change and be enlightened on the things that like that were not a part of my lived experience, but they were a part of someone else's, and I could learn from them as to why some of the ways that I was thinking was harmful to them, and why I shouldn't go forward with those, with those thoughts and with that mind frame. And so I thought that, like, continuing to be, like, at least, cursory friends with folks, like, just like, hey, if you see some of the shit that I'm talking about, if you like kind of listen to some of the things that I'm saying, and maybe some of this shit will just kind of rub off on you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe I was expecting too much of myself. I don't know. But this last week or so, man, like, just, and it wasn't just like with, say, for instance, like the Superman, becoming out bisexual. It was the Kyrie Irving shit. It was the Dave Chappelle shit. It was the John Gruden shit. It was as though all four of those combined, and some of those stories kind of intertwined together, but all of those stories combined kind of converged in like a bunch of ignorant motherfuckers coming out of their shell this week. And like, being confronted with that. And like I said, not only that, like finding myself going back and forth with folks who I hadn't talked to in a while, but it's like, yo, man, I talk about a whole bunch of shit. And the only reason you talking to me now is because I'm talking about Dave Chappelle and I disagree with him, and you like Dave Chappelle. So nigga, the only time you want to talk to me is like to argue. Are we really as close as we supposed to be? If that's the only time I hear from you is when you want to talk, like you want to talk shit. So yeah, man, it's been like, honestly, like a real fucked up kind of week. You know what I'm saying? Outside of, like being frustrated with working fucking 12 and 14 hours at the job and shit. But nah, man, like the fact that like this Superman thing moved niggas in the way in which they did, and it's like, juxtapose this shit like with the things that have been going on with Dave Chappelle and how Dave Chappelle talks about the LGBTQ community, and then add on top of that how John Gruden was, we're gonna talk about John Gruden, but like how he was fired from the Raiders and things like that. All those things converge, man. All those things converge, and it just made for a real just annoying ass week. Just annoying ass week, man. Real talk. But yo, man, that has been the news. Yeah. But y'all know what time it is.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? This nigga just say blue blazes.
All right, our first story here in Blue Blazes has to deal with the fact that Netflix will not remove Dave Chappelle's controversial The Closer special, says CEO. And
I'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
And to which Dave Chappelle was just like,
got him. Got him.
Indeed, man, because like I told y'all last week, y'all fell for that cancel culture shit, hook, line, and motherfucking sinker. I mean, not y'all. I mean, I feel like the people who listen to me probably got it, but the rest of you niggas, you know what I'm saying? The rest of them niggas, they fell for a hook, line, and sinker. So we get this story here. This comes out of ScreenRant.com. It says Netflix will not be removing Chappelle's controversial The Closer special, despite criticism from the LGBTQ plus community over several bits. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos announced that the streaming platform would not remove Dave Chappelle's controversial The Closer special. The Closer is the latest special as part of Chappelle's deal with Netflix, where he receives $20 million per special. Netflix Chappelle's last special, Sticks and Stones, in 2019, was also subject to controversy over jokes about Michael Jackson and R. Kelly abuse allegations, the LGBTQ plus community, and cancel culture, among others. The Closer, like Sticks and Stones, received backlash from the LGBTQ plus community over comments made by Chappelle that were perceived as being transphobic and in poor taste. And particularly poorly received joke referenced the backlash received by rapper DaBaby over his AIDS comment at a musical festival. Chappelle responded with his observation that people can kill others in the United States, but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings. Other controversial comments included Chappelle's requesting the LGBTQ plus community stop punching down at my people, and pitting the LGBTQ plus community against the black community. I'm gonna tell you this right now, man. The only person who did that was Chappelle. in that special. The only person who did that was Chappelle. And Chappelle, like I said last week, was he tried to equate the LGBTQ plus community with whiteness. And when you try to equate the LGBTQ community with whiteness, you totally erase the black section of the LGBTQ community. And also you allow for the jokes that are being made about them, the venom that is being aimed at them, to go unabated, because you claim that this is about white folk, white people or whatever. And because you made it about it being about white people, suddenly black people rally behind you because, we understand racism and we protective of our own, right? So Dave knew what the fuck he was doing. And it's kind of wild that he tried the way that he tried to frame it. In light of Chappelle's comments, trans producer Jacqueline Moore, Dear White People, has terminated her relationship with Netflix. And in spite of this controversy, Sarandos revealed in a press memo sent after Netflix quarterly business review that they would not be removing the closure, as reported by Variety. Sarandos cited creative freedom and a long-standing and successful relationship with Chappelle as reasons for his decision. Of course, it's a long-standing and successful. They paid the motherfucker $60 million. Right? This is the weird thing about cancel culture. All of the people who claim to have been canceled, they seem to be doing quite all right. Kanye West was someone who claimed to have been canceled. He has become a billionaire since being claimed to have been canceled. Kevin Hart, who supposedly, who refused or who said he apologized numerous times, although no one who can actually pinpoint said apology against the LGBTQ community, walked away from the Oscars when someone brought up his past, comedic bits against the LGBTQ community. He walked away from the Oscars. Now, a lot of people say that they took the Oscars away from him. No, they said, hey, man, just apologize and boom, you can be back on the stage. Now, he refused to do so and walked away from the Oscar hosting, right? So nobody took anything from him. He chose to do that. And since then, Kevin Hart has put out he's put out comedy specials. He's put out other terrible movies. Kevin Hart he's doing just fine. Kevin Hart is doing just fine. You got white comedians who are out here talking about being canceled, but yet they have, Netflix specials and they go on conservative, shows and shit. And they do their crash jokes and stuff. They're doing just fine. Dave Chappelle has a $60 million deal with Netflix. He gets paid $20 million per special. There's going to be a documentary about Dave Chappelle coming out. As a matter of fact, Dave Chappelle was just saying yo, if this is what being canceled is like, then fuck it. So, I love it. Because Dave Chappelle is just fucking fine. The only people who fall for that shit are the people who believe that they should be able to just say whatever the fuck it is that they want to say and there'll be no consequences behind it. Those are the only people who fall for that shit. Y'all really believe that these people are being canceled? No, y'all are finally hearing from people who are tired of the shit. And they get the chance to say something now. Now you can go back. People have been talking about, man, Richard Pryor couldn't be a comic today, man, because people are too sensitive. And Eddie Murphy couldn't do his jokes, man, because people are too sensitive. And I'm just gonna say this, man, they were a product of their time. They were a product of their time. And as we grow older, man, we learn different ways. Our society moves in a different direction. There are a lot of things that we don't do anymore there's a lot of things that we don't do anymore because we know better. There was a time you used to be able to smoke on a goddamn airplane. We don't do that shit no more. You know why? Because it chokes everybody the fuck out. I don't even smoke. So why should I have to inhale your secondhand shit on the airplane with the recycled air and shit? You know what I'm saying? My great-grandmother was 14 years old when she was married and had my grandmother. We call that pedophilia today, right? There are things that we don't do anymore because we know better. So why are we acting as though the things that, that we should just continue to act as though ways in which the past, real talk, as much as some of y'all would talk about, how racist it was for Donald Trump to use the Make America Great Again slogan, because what are you trying to go back to? Some of y'all really are trying to go back to oppressing other motherfuckers. And it goes back to that point that I was making last week of, y'all are not so much against oppression. It's just y'all just don't want the oppression on your neck. So long as it's going on to something, it's happening to somebody else, you cool with it. And that's what this kind of smacks of, man. So for all the talk about Dave Chappelle supposedly being canceled, Dave Chappelle is going to be just fine. This is Kevin Hart was just fucking fine. and all of these other people who are making all of this bread, telling y'all on major media platforms that they're being canceled. Right? The irony of that. Hey, you're on NBC talking about your special, but they're canceling you. Hey, you're promoting your book on CNN. You said some fucked up shit, but they're canceling you. Like, come on, man. Stop falling for that shit. I really wish people would stop falling for that shit. But yo, that's in Blue Blazers, man. Another story that we got in Blue Blazers has to deal with one Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving is in Blue Blazers because Kyrie Irving has refused, so up to this point, to take the COVID-19 vaccine as part of the city of New York's mandate that people who are going to work or be in sporting events or sporting arenas having to be vaccinated. And so right now, Kyrie Irving said he is fighting the good fight for the people who are refusing to take the vaccine and they're losing their jobs because of it. And he is going to be a voice for the voiceless. And to that, I'm just saying, because these voiceless motherfuckers that Kyrie Irving is saying he's speaking for are a pretty loud fucking bunch, man. I know quite a few of them. But we get the story here that comes out of sportsillustrated.com. It says that Kyrie Irving stance to get vaccinated against COVID-19 has not changed as of Tuesday night, but per the Athletics, Shams Charania is not because he's anti-vax or anti-science. The Nets guard reportedly is upset about individuals losing their jobs because of vaccine mandates. Charania writes, to him, it's about a grander fight than the one on the court, and Irving is challenging a perceived control of society and people's livelihood, according to sources with knowledge of Irving's mindset. Kyrie wants to be the voice for the voiceless, a source told the Athletic. But the nation's top doctors and scientists have held firm on the safety of the COVID-19 vaccine as the Pfizer-BioNTech shot received full approval by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Acting FDA Commissioner Janet Woodcock, MD, said that in the announcement that while this and other vaccines have met the FDA's rigorous scientific standards for emergency use authorization, as the first FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine, the public can be very confident that this vaccine meets the high standards for safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing quality the FDA requires of an approved product. Now, interestingly enough, you got a lot of folks who were talking about, yo, man, I take my vitamins and stuff, man. I take my vitamins, I eat well, you know what I'm saying? I exercise and everything. And those are all good things, man. I don't want anybody to take what I'm about to say as if those are like I'm being negative about it. But for those of you who talk about the vitamin aspect, a lot of those vitamins that you're taking are also not FDA approved. And I know a lot of folks who are vaccine hesitant. They lamented the fact that the vaccines were not, FDA approved. They were approved for emergency use. But so far, the Pfizer vaccine has been fully approved by the FDA, and yet you still have folks who are vaccine hesitant. So like the goalposts continuously move, right? The one thing that I think, the one thing about Kyrie Irving, I think is just disappointing is that he did that 20-minute long Instagram live video, and he said a whole lot to say not much at all. I mean, about the only thing that he pretty much confirmed was the fact that he said he wasn't retiring. Okay, so you may not be retiring, but you may not be retiring, but how useful could you be to a team if they can't play you but half the season because you're going to places that may have a vaccine mandate and you won't be available? Or how dependable could you be to a team if you just suddenly decide I need some personal time, and you just up and leave for about a good I don't know, a month, because Kyrie Irving has done shit like that before. And the other part about this is that I find very interesting, man, and this just kind of speaks to some of the privilege that we have here in America, is that we are so awash in vaccines, is that we are so reliant on the goodwill of others, that we are so dependent upon the fact that we are a rich nation and that we do have resources, that we got a lot of folks around here who are just dependent upon the fact that other people are going to do the right thing, therefore I don't have to do shit. And they're not doing their part. It's like I said, man, a few episodes back, this is part of the worst fucking group project in the history of mankind, because you got a lot of people who want to take advantage of all of the benefits, but don't want to do any of the motherfucking work. And so for the longest time, man, like when they first started talking about lifting up some of the like the mask mandates and stuff, like, yo, if you're fully vaccinated, you can get rid of your mask. Like earlier in the summer, like the springtime and stuff, they were telling folks like, yo, if you're fully vaccinated, you can go out, you can get rid of your mask, you know, you're fine, you know, you got robust protection and everything else. And what happened was you had a whole bunch of unvaccinated folks, you know, who were doing the exact same shit that the vaccinated people were doing. They were like, oh, well, fuck it, I could take off my mask. Like, no, they said the vaccinated could take off their mask. Your unvaccinated ass should probably still be wearing your shit. But that's not what happened. And you had a whole bunch of unvaccinated people out here amongst other unvaccinated people spreading that shit around. And then you've got the fact that God damn it, I'm losing my train of thought here. No, but then you got the other factor that kind of plays into this, in that shit, Spann, what were you getting ready to say? No, I'm just saying, like, you had a whole bunch of people who weren't wearing a mask, who probably should have been wearing a mask, and they went out and they were just like acting as though everything is everything. The other point that I was going to make was this, right? So you get vaccinated and you get your vaccination card and whatnot. And, you know, you got a lot of places who were saying, like, if you're unvaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask in here, right? And you have all these people, especially the unvaccinated folks, who are unvaccinated, who are like, yo, man, so they got these vaccine mandates, and now they want us to have vaccine passports, this, that, and the other. And truthfully speaking, ever since I've been vaccinated, and I got fully vaccinated, I've been fully vaccinated since like March, April sometime. I haven't really needed to like pull that vaccination card once since I've been vaccinated, bro. Nobody's asked me for it. So for all this, you know, this shit that people have been like having about you being vaccinated and you needed a vaccine passport, which is essentially just, you know, a record of you being vaccinated. But like all the vaccine passport should be illegal. Nobody's asked me about my vaccine status, man. Nobody's asked me to, you know, to show proof of my vaccination. I haven't been to I'd have been to a Pistons game. I'd have been to a Detroit Lions game. I'd have been in like plenty of Targets and Home Depots and Lowe's and all these different places, man. Nobody has asked me for a fucking vaccination card, despite the fact that I'm fully vaccinated. And so it's become one of those things where you got folks like Kyrie Irving represents, unfortunately, Kyrie Irving represents the very vocal minority of people. This is what doesn't necessarily gets understood. The very loud and vocal minority of people who don't want to get vaccinated for the public good, right? Just don't want to do it. And then you got a lot of folks who just don't want to do it because they don't like being told what to do. And I kind of feel like Kyrie Irving, you know, kind of rolls in, you know, with that sort of thing. But the idea that like, yo, man, so I'm doing this because you got people who are losing their jobs because they don't want to get vaccinated. And that's ultimately, that's the choice that they've made, right? We've talked about this on the show. Like, you have a choice. You might not necessarily like the choices in front of you, but these are the two choices that you have. And you got to make a decision as to what's best for you and your family. The one thing about Kyrie Irving is that, like, yo, his decision affects, you know, an NBA team that has NBA championship aspirations. And so it's a big deal that Kyrie Irving isn't a part of that team as it speaks right now, right? The other part I just think is disingenuous is that you got people like Kyrie Irving who talk about, I didn't have a chance to talk about this myself, man. Like, but he went on Instagram Live. He could have been on Instagram Live whenever the fuck he felt like he wanted to get on Instagram Live. It wasn't that that's the thing. Like with social media, you don't have to wait on the media to do anything. You can do it yourself, especially if you're someone of that stature. You can do it yourself. You don't have to wait on them. You got your phone and you got access to millions of people right from that little device in your back of your pocket. So why then don't you just say how you feel about this and how you're processing this right then, as opposed to letting people fill in the blanks for you and then being upset that they filled in the blanks because you didn't say shit as you were being the unvocal voice of the voiceless, you know? So yeah, man. Yeah, I like, as far as him not taking the vaccine, man, listen, as far as anybody, honestly, I'm just going to say this, man. As far as anybody, honestly, deciding at this point not to take the vaccine, nobody's forcing you to take the vaccine. You don't have to take the vaccine. You just got some choices to make. Whether that might be you figuring out someplace else to work. That may be figuring out someplace else for your kids to go to school. That may be figuring out, I don't know, whether or not you're going to homeschool, you're going to work from home or whatever. Who the fuck knows? But you've made a decision. It's just time for y'all to start living with the decisions that y'all are making. Nobody is forcing y'all to do shit. You have every fucking right in the world to refuse that vaccine. The tripped out part about it is when y'all refuse that vaccine because you don't believe in the science, it's just odd as fuck when y'all show up and believing in the science at the hospital, at the fucking ICU, waiting for them to treat your ass when you were telling them that like you didn't need this vaccine, right? I'm just saying, man, it don't really make a whole lot of sense, but that's in Blue Blazers. Another story that we got here in Blue Blazers has to do with the John Gruden story that we've been talking about, alluding to earlier, right? So John Gruden was the now former head coach of the Los Angeles Raiders. As a matter of fact, John Gruden had a deal where they were paying him 10 years. It was a 10-year, $100 million deal that he signed with the Los Angeles Raiders. Excuse me. So he's getting paid $10 million a year to be the coach of that football team. And John Gruden had to resign because John Gruden said some racist. He said some misogynistic. He said some homophobic things. And he was doing all this shit on company fucking email.
Got him! Got him!
Yeah, man. Yeah. So he did all of these things on company email. He did this shit on company time. I think he was working at ESPN at the time. These are emails from 10 years ago. And let me pull this story up so we can talk about it. All right. So we get this here from the New York Times. It says, emails detailed by the New York Times Raiders coach John Gruden casually used misogynistic and homophobic language to disparage people. John Gruden stepped down Monday as the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders football team hours after the New York Times detailed emails in which he made homophobic and misogynistic remarks following an earlier report of racist statements about a union leader. His resignation was a striking departure from the football league for a coach who had won a Super Bowl, been a marquee analyst on ESPN, and returned to the NFL in 2018 to lead the resurgent Raiders, which he had coached years before. I resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, he said on Twitter in a statement issued by the team. I love the Raiders and I do not want to be a distraction. Thanks to you all, the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. Right. Said Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, said in a statement that he had accepted the resignation. Rich Bisaccia, the Raiders special teams coordinator, was elevated to interim head coach, the team said. Gruden's departure came after a New York Times report that NFL officials, as part of a separate workplace misconduct investigation that did not directly involve him, found that Gruden had casually and frequently unleashed misogynistic and homophobic language over several years to denigrate people around the game and to mock some of the league's momentous changes. He denounced the emergence of women as referees, the drafting of a gay player, and the tolerance of players protesting during the playing of the national anthem, according to emails reviewed by the Times. Gruden's messages were sent to Bruce Allen, the former president of the Washington football team, and others while he was working for ESPN as a color analyst during Monday Night Football. In the emails, Gruden called the league's commissioner, Roger Goodell, a faggot and clueless anti-football pussy, and said that Goodell should have not pressured Jeff Fisher, then the coach of the Rams, to draft queers in reference to Michael Sam, a gay player chosen by the team in 2014. So, when this story first broke, guess how I found out? From one of them annoying motherfuckers on my Facebook. Right? I had to eventually block this motherfucker here too, because this was a continuation of some of the arguments that we and him were having, or the arguments that I kind of was refusing to engage him with on Facebook. This was a continuation of that. So he started tagging me in posts about this shit, right? So again, we start talking about how what Dave Chappelle said, how that kind of seeps into the type of folks who would like defend the things that Dave Chappelle said, also being okay with the things that John Gruden was saying, right? Because the person who sent me this, who was like adamant that like cancel culture had been running amok, he was more upset that people were upset about the emails than the fact that the emails existed at all, right? He was more upset that people were upset than the fact that the emails like existed. That was what he was mad about, right? Like the fact that like people were mad at this. And so I'm of the mind, I'm like, well, what are you defending right now? Right? Like what right now in this particular moment, what exactly are you defending? And he's talking about, I'm not defending nothing. I'm just talking about cancel culture. And he said this shit about black people and they was getting ready to let him off the hook. And then he said this thing about gay people and he said this thing about gay people and suddenly he got to go, he got to resign, he getting fired and all this other things. And this is a point that I saw a lot of brothers make this week. I saw a lot of brothers make this point that John Gruden was able to make a racist remark about the NFLPA's executive president. I think his name is DeMaurice Smith, I believe it is, that he was able to make that racist statement against him. And that wasn't enough to get him fired. But it wasn't until he said something against gay people where, he had like the heat was on and stuff. Right. And I hear you, but I also heard black dudes speak in defense of this dude on national television and in national publications. As a matter of fact, when this news broke, you had people like the esteemed Tony Dungy, Super Bowl winning NFL head coach, one of the first black head coaches in the NFL, was very successful with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was John Gruden who won the Super Bowl after Tony Dungy had built that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team up, right? Before he went on to, I believe, coach the Indianapolis Colts to a Super Bowl championship. He goes on television to say that, like, yo, despite the fact that John Gruden said some very some fucked up racist things, that we should accept John Gruden's apology. He said this the very night that this shit broke. And he said this on a stage with another black man, Mike Tirico, who sees himself as an Italian dude. Like, I don't know if he knows this, but like, America sees you as black, Mike Tirico. But they spoke on this as if, hey, yeah, he said these things. It was fucked up. We should accept his apology and move on. And it wasn't just them. It wasn't just them. As a matter of fact, there was a few people who've come out in somewhat in defense of John Gruden. And they all brothers. One of them being Andre Rison, former wide receiver for the Los Angeles Raiders, for the Atlanta Falcons. He's a former star at Michigan State University. He's come out in defense of him. We get this story here out of Fox News. It says John Gruden has his first defender in former NFL receiver Andre Rison, who says there is no way that John Gruden is racist. Rison told TMZ Sports that despite the number of Gruden's emails that showed he used racist, homophobic, and misogynistic language, he is confident in sticking up for his former head coach. Rison played under Gruden for the Raiders in 2000, his last in the NFL. We all say some things behind closed doors that we regret and we wouldn't say in public, Rison said. We've all made mistakes. I believe who he said and what he said and who he intended it for. It was intended for that person and nobody else. So he's saying, hey, man, John Gruden only said that to DeMaurice Smith. He didn't mean that for all black people. But check this out, though. John Gruden was also bemoaning the fact that NFL players were kneeling during the national anthem in protest to police killing unarmed African Americans. That was what the protest is for, right? He wanted Eric Reed, who was kneeling in support of Colin Kaepernick, kicked out of the league along with Colin Kaepernick. So you believe that he only meant that for DeMaurice Smith. He didn't mean that for all of us. Meanwhile, the very movement, when it came to like standing up for Black lives, he was very much against, right? It says Rising words of support are the first to come from any former player or colleague of Gruden since the second batch of emails was released on Monday. Keyshawn Johnson, who played under Gruden in Tampa Bay from 2002 to 2003 and had issues with him, had said earlier in the week on ESPN's Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max that he was far from surprised to hear the language that Gruden used in the emails. He just always been a fraud to me from day one. He's always been a used car salesman, Johnson said. So, yeah, you got NFL players, former NFL coaches even, coming to the defense of one John Gruden. And they all black. So we get another one. This comes out of Fox News. This one is, what's my name? Raheem Morris. All right. He is the defensive coordinator for the Rams this year. Since first-year defensive coordinator for the Rams, Raheem Morris is another coach speaking out on the John Gruden email controversy. Morris coached under Gruden as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive quality control coach for the Super Bowl winning 2002 unit. Following Thursday's practice, Morris shared his thoughts on the emails that led to Gruden's resignation, condemning the messaging, but also adding some grace for his former mentor. I don't excuse the behavior. It doesn't excuse the poor judgment, Morris said. However you want to put it, it does not excuse those things. Morris contextualized his sentiments by adding that the diversity of the league should demand better judgment by the head coach, but you do know you can't say those things, Morris said, and those things are frowned upon in almost every environment. You got to find out, you've got to really dig deep to find out whether you're sorry that you got caught or you're sorry that you said those things truly. With Rams coach Sean McVay also coming to the Gruden's lineage of coaches, Morris spoke on the mutual sentiment regarding those in the NFL that personally know Gruden and wanting those and those waiting to ostracize him purely on the content of the emails. You know, the people that do know him and the people that know him well, for us, it would have been to be, it would have to be him searching out some, you know, the people that do know him and the people that know him well. For us, it would have to be him searching out some of the help or some of the people that he has to talk to search for that type of forgiveness, Morris claimed. In his response, Morris mentioned that conversations should be frank regarding the content of the emails and that a path back to the NFL should not be closed off for Gruden after one offense. Now, it's actually been more than one offense. He sent more than one email. The emails date not only from back to 2011, they go all the way up to 2018. This isn't a one offense thing. But the point that I'm making is this, is that for all of the dudes, all of the brothers who are coming to me to say that, like, yo, this confirms what Dave Chappelle was saying, and that, like, you can't say nothing against the gay community, otherwise you're going to get fired. Meanwhile, you got brothers in the NFL who are excusing the very racism that was being aimed at black folks from this guy. So you can't therefore say, like, yo, you know, it's because, you know, you can't say anything bad about gay people. No, it's not that. You got way too many black apologists for this dude in the NFL right now. So if you got so many black apologists for him, yeah, this is why folks feel as though they may be able to get away with some shit, because you got way too many brothers in the NFL who are ready to extend that grace to this motherfucker, right? Personally, it's stupid to be sending that type of messaging on company email, right? On company email, like, because you don't have any control over that shit. The company can decide at whatever reason, like, they can go through your email, they can go through your data usage at the job and everything else to figure out what the fuck it is you doing while you on company time. So you felt very comfortable sending this shit on company email. That's white privilege 101. Before we get into how fucked up it is for the racist, misogynistic, and homophobic shit it is you sent. And also think about this for a second. Like, if you're talking about, if he has certain attitudes about you know, like gay players, you know, like how then do you, like, sincerely how do you as a gay player come out when you know this is the attitude that is prevalent in the league? I mean, he was the coach of the one prominent, as a matter of fact, the only openly gay NFL player in the league right now. He plays for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. I mean, but could you really coach that dude after this shit comes out? Could you really coach that NFL team after, like, you know, you got a team full of black dudes and they hear you say some racist shit about another brother? Like, can they really play for you after that? Like, you start talking shit about the commissioner, calling him the F word, talking about he's a pussy and all this other shit. Like, can you really be effective as a coach, as an official, as a leader of men when people know that these are the things that you think and how you carry yourself? So honestly, it's just weird to me when I'm seeing brothers defend this sort of shit. Like, yo, man, what are y'all defending right now? What are you getting at? You're saying this proves Dave Chappelle's point. No, it just proves that, like, yeah, it's also some niggas who are willing to, like, let this shit go because they feel like he's a part of our tribe. We also want access to that level of fucking privilege. We want to be able to talk this shit the same way that John Gruden was able to talk this shit. And if John Gruden ain't able to talk this shit, then guess what? That means for us, if we get caught. So we got to act as though we cool with this shit. Yeah, man, he made us say some racist shit, man. But we get over that shit, man. That shit rolls off a back like a duck, like water off a duck's back, man. You can't let that shit get to you, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Because they really just trying to see how you gonna play it, how you gonna carry it. You know what I'm saying? If you can carry it, then if you can carry it good, and like you might be good, man. Like coaching job come out, when your career over, you know what I mean? You could be special teams coach. You know what I'm saying? You might not be head coach, but you can be special teams coach. You could work your way up. It's almost like going from the fries to the goddamn cash register. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, maybe, because we got the Rooney Rule, maybe we can get to the NFL head coach. Who knows? But it's just been a weird week in that you've got so many brothers who are willing to step forward and take a bullet for misogyny, take a bullet for racism, take a bullet for homophobia on behalf of this white dude. Meanwhile, they keep talking about how you can't say anything bad about gay people. When you have a blatant example of some racism right there, and he's got like a line of brothers. One of them just kind of say, nah, man, not John, man. Nah, I'm cool. I worked with him before. You don't know him the way you think you know him. Same way I work with a whole bunch of white folks in my job, right? I got white people in my job. I got white people that are union brothers with me that I know had their ass down at the Capitol on January 6th. That don't mean they raggedy. Just because we union brothers don't mean they raggedy ass don't associate themselves with their whiteness and how that whiteness exerts itself on the rest of us here in America. So, yeah, man. John Gruden got fired for some racist, misogynistic, homophobic shit. I mean, think about this, man. Not only was he talking about Michael Sam and the pressuring of Michael Sam, he said that they pressured the I forget exactly, was it the Rams that drafted Michael Sam? The fact that Michael Sam was a 2-time SEC Defensive Player of the Year coming out of college, the fact that it was even controversial and that a team had to be forced, quote unquote, to draft the 2-time SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Was it the SEC or Big 12? I think he might have been to Missouri. So Missouri at the time might have been Big 12. But it was a Power 5, Power 6 conference school that he was at. He wasn't playing in no bullshit school. He was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in college. And the fact that they had to force, or like it was controversial for a team to pick him up, the fact that he sat on the side before he was drafted was crazy, right? But if you got a person who's speaking on this subject, who's in the know with a lot of people in the higher offices and shit, who's chummy enough to talk about these sort of things on company email, trust and believe that's an institutional thing. Same thing with women referees. The fact that he spoke about women referees not being able to do the job correctly. The fact that this dude was talking about mitigations against concussions and shit. Like, you're talking about a league of players where CTE is a very real thing for them. And that he's like bemoaning like precautions to keep players from getting concussions in this game. That's problematic as fuck. When you think about the fact that like this dude was sending photographs of the Washington football team's cheerleaders where they were only wearing bikini bottoms on company email. Very fucking problematic. So the fact that oh boy sent me this shit or tagged me in this shit on Facebook and he's talking about this being about cancel culture. Yeah, man. Again, what the fuck are you defending at this point? Because this dude has done all of these things that would get anybody fucking fired in any real fucking work, in any real workforce. If you did any of these things, your ass could possibly be let go. Human resources would be good, like coming to pay your ass a visit. That's just a thing. But to be more upset that he was having consequences being meted out for the actions that he took and calling it cancel culture, and being more upset that people were mad at the emails as opposed to the fact that the emails existed at all is fucking crazy to me. But that has been my week, and that is why I've been like low key just all week.
Up. Shut the fuck up.
Damn.
Enough. Boy, I've been sick to my fucking stomach watching you imbeciles type things. Yeah. Stop typing. You niggas are stupid.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But that's been Blue Blazers.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? Did this nigga just say blue blazes?
Yeah, but it's time for an oldie but a baddie.
That I'm proud an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yeah, that's enough of that shit. It's proud to be an American time here at the Spann Report podcast. And our first story here in Proud to be an American has to do with the fact that, so the guy who is Q, right? For those of you who may be familiar with the political aspect of Q or QAnon, it was the online community, right-wing conspiracy theory community that started, I believe it might have been like 4chan, 8chan, one of those goddamn chans. Well, the guy who is essentially behind the Q shit, Ron Watkins, has decided that he's going to run for Congress out of Arizona. Yeah, man, we get the story here. This comes out of businessinsider.com. It says that Ron Watkins, a former 8chan administrator, widely rumored to have seeded the QAnon conspiracy theory, has said that he intends to run for a congressional seat in Arizona. In a video posted on his Telegram channel on Thursday, Watkins said that he had decided to double down with God and as my compass to take the fight to the swamp of Washington, D.C. I'm here to formally announce my run for Congress in Arizona. He said, under God's authority, we will take back Congress, flip the Senate, and fix the presidency. Earlier, an email address associated with Watkins had filed a statement of intent with the office of the Arizona Secretary of State to run for a congressional seat. Dylan Rosenblatt, a journalist for the local NPR affiliate, first reported. The filing is an essential step in running for public office and comes ahead of the candidate seeking to secure the required number of signatures to make it onto the ballot. Some critics, including QAnon expert Michael Rothschild, dismissed the move as a publicity stunt or a fundraising bid. In order to run for office, the candidate must reside in the state, and earlier this year, it was reported by NBC that Watkins lives in Japan. Arizona's first congressional district is currently represented by Democrat Tom O'Halloran, who has been in office since 2016 and has since defeated two Republican challengers. In recent days, Watkins gives his support as two Republican candidates in the state, has given support to two Republican candidates in the state, including former state attorney general Tom Horn, who was running for state superintendent, and Carrie Lake, who recently endorsed by former President Donald Trump as the GOP gubernatorial candidate for the state. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, like I said, with Ron Watkins, there's an not ESPN, HBO did a very good documentary about the QAnon conspiracy, the QAnon, not even so much conspiracy, but the community that has grown out of those 8chan groups and things like that. And Ron Watkins is featured prominently in that documentary. His father is as well. The beginnings of that movement are very well documented in this documentary. I would implore anybody who's interested to go kind of check that HBO documentary out. Ron Watkins is Q, right? And so you've got a lot of people who believe that that Q is some anonymous, unknown government official who's giving the inside knowledge on the conspiracy that Democrats are sex trafficking children and drinking their blood for power. Yeah. That's kind of what they think. But that guy's running for Congress in Arizona, supposedly, despite the fact that he doesn't even really live in the city. So he's a carpetbagger, but most of them are, right? So we got that in Proud to be an American. Another story that we got here in Proud to be an American has to do with the fact that there was a woman in Oklahoma who is facing, she's found guilty, not even facing, she was found guilty of manslaughter, first degree manslaughter, after suffering a miscarriage of her child. And
I'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yeah, I believe I might have video for this. So let me see if I can pull the video up to this story. We do. So let me go ahead and pull this up so you guys can watch right along with me. Let me do this here. And so, yeah. Here we go. Check this out, y'all.
A woman has been found guilty of first-degree manslaughter today at the Comanche County Courthouse. The jury returned this evening around 6:30 with the verdict in Brittany Pulah's case. The jury began their deliberations around 3:45 this afternoon. An autopsy report showed that Pulah's child died at 17 weeks gestation, also showing that the fetus tested positive for methamphetamine, amphetamine, and another drug in the brain and liver. Pulah was sentenced to 4 years in prison.
All right. So, yeah, they found this woman guilty of first-degree manslaughter because of the fact that her child had tested positive for methamphetamines and other drugs. One of the things I think is very important for us to understand is that, unfortunately, like, addicts get pregnant, right? And it's already like, if it's already bad enough that they're dealing with an addiction. I don't know if prison for the miscarriage of a child is the right thing to do to a woman who's dealing with a substance abuse problem. I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand if that's, I don't think that's the right thing for us to be doing. I think that woman clearly needed treatment for her addiction. And is wild in the sense that, we talk about how, excuse me, we talk about how, like, especially with the opioid crisis, right? How America has kind of sort of shifted its enforcement, so to speak, on what it means to, like, for drug addictions, where we treated it more, where now that white people are becoming more and more addicted to the opioids and things of that nature, how we're treating it more like a, what the fuck is that? I'll be damned. I don't know what the fuck that was. But we're treating it more like a public health crisis, much like we treat COVID-19, than we did before. Like, when crack cocaine was mostly ravaging Black and brown communities, it was treated as a criminal health, as a criminal crisis in America. And so, like, the fact that they're essentially going to lock this woman up for suffering from a drug addiction while pregnant is crazy to me. It's crazy to me, but also thinking about the region in which this is happening. This is happening in Oklahoma, not too far from Texas, right above Texas. And the fact that, like, Republicans are by and large the party in power in states like Texas and states like Oklahoma and states like Kansas and states like, Arizona and things of that nature. These are the types of policies that they implement. So yeah, you've got a woman who's serving jail time for having a miscarriage because it maybe had to do with the fact that she was a drug addict, but that woman probably also needed treatment. And it's just weird. Maybe she's like, I think, because she might be a woman of color, that maybe this is the reason why it's not necessarily being looked at as though this is somebody who needed treatment as opposed to jail time. And so, yeah, man, there's things like that just kind of, hey, man, aren't you proud to be a goddamn American man? Because we lock up pregnant women for having miscarriages. That's what we do here. We're America, damn it. So yeah, that's I'm proud to be an American. Another story that we have here in Proud to be an American has to deal with the fact that there's a teacher who was just fired, and this teacher was fired in Texas. And the reason why they were fired in Texas was because they were debating a student on why they, as a white person, should be able to use the N-word. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's what they did. So let me go ahead and pull this story up. I believe I have video with this story as well. And yeah, let me do that. Let me pull that up so y'all can watch right along with your man Spann. Hold on a second here.
Evening.
Let me pause that so I can pull that up for y'all. All right. Here we go.
Klein ISD teacher is off the job after his offensive comments were caught on camera. The district says he is no longer employed as of today.
But some wonder why this.
Hey, man, shout out to the two black anchors, though. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all, man. I see y'all got, I believe this is Houston. Shout out to y'all, man. Y'all got the two black anchors. They usually got to split them up. We got the mixed ones up here, man. The two black anchors, though, I fucks with it, y'all.
Took so long. Jason Miles is outside the school with reaction from both sides. Jason getting a lot of attention on social media.
Absolutely, Len. This incident was recorded using a smartphone. Though there's nothing to see because the phone was hidden, there is plenty to hear.
Inside a Klein Collins High School theater arts class last week, race became the topic of discussion, although it's unclear what preceded it.
I mean, if there's a word that you're not supposed to say, why are you saying it?
I don't know. Why do the guys in my class go, say, man, crazy? Why do they say that? And why is it because I'm a white guy, I can't say that? I can't say any word.
The white male teacher goes on to question why there isn't.
Well, wait. First of all, you said it already. Right. Second of all, you said N-word later. Like, you knew you weren't supposed to say. Like, the fact that there's a such thing as calling it the N-word already tells you that there's a reason why you're not really supposed to be saying that. But the other part I thought was very interesting about this, like, you're debating a teenager, man. You're debating a teenager. Like, I get that you're trying to act as though these kids should know that you believe that it's okay, that you should be able to use this word. But clearly the kids are understanding that, like, yo, you really shouldn't be using this word. The kids are already there. The kids already get it. And this kind of goes into the whole idea of, especially what's going on in Texas, with the whole idea that, like, they should be presenting two sides to controversial issues so that, like, the kids can make up their own minds about certain things that we really have already kind of settled the science on. Like, Nazis are bad. Racists are bad. Like, hey, we really, with the civil rights movement, we really should be presenting the other side. Why did we allow these niggas to vote? Why did we allow for interracial marriage? Miscegenation laws were a real thing, and they were a thing for a reason. Why did we allow for that to become a thing where black people and white people can get together and they can have sex, they can have babies, these little beige babies, and then we don't know what to call the babies, mulatto or octoroons or whatever they is. Well, how do we allow for that sort of thing to happen? And so we need to present these opposing views, because I really don't believe that white people and black people should be able to coexist together in the way in which they coexisted. I think you should be over there with your people. I think I should be over here with my people, and we will be happier we will be happier that way. But you people insist on being integrationists, and y'all want to be all up in my shit. So I believe that we should have the books that say I should be able to be over here, and you should be able to be over there, and everybody will be everybody, and everybody will be okay. And we should be able to take your votes away, because your votes don't count as much as mine, because I'm white and I'm American. All right? He's debating a child, man. The teacher is debating a child. It's crazy.
In a White History Month, along with comments about other ethnic groups.
At this time, I can tell you this individual is no longer employed in Klein ISD.
So he fucked around and found out. Well, we're out here. All right, hey, we ain't talking about COVID though.
And we are still investigating this incident.
The district's announcement about the teacher's employment comes days after parents say they alerted the school about the video and wonder if that's the only reason the teacher is gone.
Your words, sir, were absolutely offensive.
Some of them joined activist Quan LX today outside the school, including those whose children were in the classroom.
It's ridiculous. It's hard to listen to without getting angry.
It's upsetting. It's just really upsetting.
They hope the ongoing investigation includes looking at this now former teacher's past.
Because if you got that kind of racist mindset about black people, Hispanics, and Indians, who knows what you did with your grade book?
In an email to families, the school said it regrets students were impacted by the teacher's language.
Yeah, man. So, that's what it is, man. A teacher gets fired for, trying to. The weird thing about this also is that the motherfucker really tried to present an argument about why there isn't a White History Month. When you have a teacher in front of students arguing that there should be a White History Month, as if said teacher isn't also in a school that teaches history in America, and the vast majority of that history isn't already white, is amazing. Not even so much amazing. It's sickening that we have a person in a position of authority who is supposed to be an educator, who is presenting those kinds of questions to students as if he shouldn't already know that the vast majority of the history that we teach in this nation already is mostly white. And if we do get a month for Black history, then it's because, like, maybe to offset some of the history, the overwhelmingly white history, like, I believe Hispanic Heritage Month isn't even during the school year. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't even teach Hispanic Heritage Month during the school year, I don't believe. So, like, yo, the vast majority of the history that they teach in the schools are overwhelmingly white, especially if you're talking about American history. So, yeah, man, it just disheartening and this fucking functional and just downright fucking American that a teacher is arguing this shit to kids while at school. And I'm just glad that they fucked around and like fired his ass. But yo, man, that's been proud to be an American.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
That's enough of that shit. But yo, man, we don't have a champ of the week this week, man. It's one of those rare times where the Spann Report podcast ends without a champ, man. I wish we'd have had a champ of the week. Wait a second, what's going on here? Somebody in YouTube said I reported you for saying. So you reported me for saying. Okay, good on you, Tyrone Jackson. Good on you. But yo, man, it's time for us to get on up out of here. But of course, before we do, I'm sorry. Oh, here we are, Gloria Miller. I get all the trolls on the YouTube, man. All the trolls on the YouTube. But yo, before we get out of here, let me remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here, the Spann Report podcast, and let your voice be heard. Go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Of course, those messages will get replied to here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get replied to here live on the show. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there, chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, hit us up on our iTunes and our Stitcher Radio with a 5-star review. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get read here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. Also, go to our website, www.thespannreport.com. You can go there, watch replays of the show. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And of course, we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. And check out our store at the website too, man. Get yourself some merch. Get yourself especially like a hoodie and shit, because it's getting warm outside. I'm sorry, not warm. It's getting cold outside. So you're going to need those sweatshirts, man. Get you a sweatshirt. Get yourself a hoodie. I don't know if we got onesies and shit yet, but maybe soon, right? But yeah, man, we really appreciate everybody who contributes and helps us out in that way. It means a lot to us. And it helps keep, help us keep this thing rolling and help us keep this ball going on, man. Real talk. But yeah, man, I am about to get on up out of here, and I will talk to you guys later. But until next time, fam, yeah, we just go ahead and peace out.